Hello.
Hey,
Hi there. Fahim.
yes,
Hi there. Isan. Hi.
nice.
Good. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, thanks for the suggestion and joining on. So, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah.
Okay, good. So, I know we haven't agreed what what to talk about. So, was there anything you wanted to ask, or you wanted to mention to me?
Um. Oh no, I mean, I don't mind what we talk about. Um.
Sure. I mean, you told me you're a physics teacher.
Yeah.
Yes. So, did you have any issues with the videos that I make?
Uh. I mean, not really. I mean, most of them they're quite good because it's just calling out Muslims that are like using bad science
Sure. That's
against
the
like
aim.
lay people. Yeah.
That is the aim. I
Yeah.
mean, it started off as something to counter the bad science that's coming from the Dawa channels, especially because they were very bad mannered when guests were coming on to try and counter them in terms of muting them and kicking them off and I realised there was no point going on to their shows because you couldn't make a point. So it was much better just to react to their videos and make my own videos where I can check what they've said with the actual science, and I can show up that science as evidence. So that's how I started, and it's mainly science. So I did branch out into like some philosophy, morality, some history as well. So
Yeah. I think the other thing is that they'll always do like a 4v1 kind of thing. Like it'll never be a one-on-one discussion on like a neutral platform.
yeah,
It's always on their platform,
it's on their
so
terms, and
it's on their terms.
they
Yeah.
have a biased moderator, and so
Hmm.
that's one thing. And what another thing I've noticed from doing these videos is, doing my videos, is they would comment sometimes, and they would say I should come onto their arena or their platform, and where they have control. Whereas I say I don't want to do that because you're not going to engage in an honest way. And I invite them. They can always post a comment on my video, and I will respond. But they never post any comments, so they don't want to have a dialogue that's outside of their control.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really frustrating for me to watch them because I would say they give like a lot of Muslims and like Islam in general like a bad name because what seems to be the case is that they'll pick and choose with what science they want to go with. So
Yeah,
like Big Bang, they'll say, "Oh, that's in the Quran, so that's fine." But evolution, it goes against the Quran, so we're not going to accept that. So they have the Quran as their standard of science, and they're rejecting
yeah,
the actual science when it should be the other way around. I
yeah,
think.
exactly. Yeah, they come up with a lot of nonsense. I mean, Sabor is the king of science nonsense when he brings up something he talks about epistemic weighing, where he talks about you have the Quran on one hand and the and science on the other, and then you weigh them up and decide which one. It's completely it's completely ridiculous because other people could do the same with their religion. So where would you go from there? You
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
start off with believing your religion in the first place.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm,
Um, I mean, the thing is, like, if your religion is true, then there shouldn't really be any conflicts in the first place. Um,
sure, but you'd
so
have
there
to prove
shouldn't.
that
There
in the
shouldn't.
first place.
Yes. Yeah, you would.
Mm.
But I mean, like, if you believe in a religion and then there's a conflict between your religion and science, and that's a problem for the religion, not the science.
Yes, yeah, because this is something I've brought up with a few times when they talk about when we discuss naturalism and methodological naturalism, where I say science can't detect the supernatural, so we can't
Hmm.
include the supernatural in any scientific theory, and if we make an exception for one person's religious supernatural claims, then you have to accept every other religion's supernatural claims because science can't accept or disregard any supernatural claim.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
So you said you're a physics teacher, are you?
yeah. I'm
Okay,
doing a teacher training course.
okay.
Um,
You look very young, if you don't mind me
yes,
asking. I always just imagine teachers to be older or something.
yeah. I mean, I just came out of uni like last year, so I went straight into the teacher training because I got a scholarship to teach physics.
Oh, well done.
because there's a shortage of physics teachers here. So yeah, that's what I'm doing for now. Um, what was your what did you study at uni?
I'm a medical doctor, so I studied medicine,
Okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
I've been qualified for many years, and that has given me like a science grounding, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that's helped me to do these rebuttal videos where I can analyze the science, especially the biological ones when it comes to evolution, and I can rebut them from that. I imagine you could, you'd be very good on the cosmology ones and all the physics as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I like. I don't think any of the traditional arguments for the existence of God are like really any good,
Mm.
um, because they all seem to be they seem to be comparing the universe to like something inside the universe. So, like the teleological argument might say, "Oh, the universe is designed because it's complex," and then I'll compare it to a watch. Say
Yeah,
that a watch is designed because it's complex, but there's no relationship between complexity and design. Like there are complex things in nature that are not designed.
exactly. I think,
So that
yeah,
doesn't prove design.
yeah. I mean, simplicity is the hallmark of design, really, because why would you make something over complex if you could make it simpler? That's
Exactly. Yeah,
that's one
that's
thing I
true.
would
Yeah.
look at. Yeah, and also, as
Mm-hmm.
you said, the watchmaker, we know it's designed because we have examples of watches and computers and cars being designed. We don't have that with biological systems.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's just a very like outdated argument that was debunked by David Hume. So
yeah, it's an old one. I mean, a lot of their arguments that you see are really bad. I mean, Hamza comes up with the information and DNA a lot, which that's a really bad argument because he can't even define what information is. This is something he's picked up from Stephen Meyer, and that was
yeah.
something that's an argument that was completely debunked by Professor Dave Explains. And
Oh yeah,
I think
yeah.
my latest videos was on Hamza and information and DNA, and how his
Hmm.
arguments were just completely nonsense.
Yeah, yeah. With the information thing, there's this one atheist YouTuber that I watch. His name is TMM. It's called the Messianic Manic.
Yeah, TMM. Yeah,
Um,
I've
yeah,
heard
yeah,
of
yeah,
his channel. Yeah,
yeah. So it's like information doesn't necessarily have to point to intelligence. Like if a rock falls on like a beach or something and it leaves an imprint, that's some information that can tell you the shape of the rock. But
yeah,
that doesn't mean someone dropped the rock. It could have just fallen by itself.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's um, sorry, just this. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of stuff that I put in my videos. I say you're walking along, you see a waterfall, so your eyes have and your brain have now got that information. There's a waterfall there, but there was a waterfall there anyway, even if nobody
Yeah,
was ever there to see it. That's
yeah,
something that I put in. Yeah, so I was glad.
yeah,
It's good you got that concept. Yeah. Mm.
yeah.
And was there anything that
I
you just thinking of the people who'll be watching this discussion? Was there anything that you found was controversial that I've done, or anything that you think I'm being you know completely wrong?
um I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, I think there was maybe like some specific stuff that I disagreed with, but
Sure.
um
Did you want to bring that up?
yeah, I mean, I'm just like trying to think of what it was. Like I don't remember. Um, because I mean, most of what I watch on YouTube is a lot of like debunking like bad science and bad science arguments that are used for atheism. So not atheism, theism.
Mm.
So like you mentioned, Professor Dave. Like I was watching him. I've been watching him for the last few years. Like I first found him because he was quite helpful in my exams in university, and then I saw that he does like debunks of flat earthers and people who deny evolution and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
he's got a good series on the Discovery Institute.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I've seen all of that, the James Tour stuff.
yeah,
But I feel like there's a lot of that on like Christian apologists, but just not enough on Muslims. Like there's you, and then there's like one other guy that I've seen who's done a few on like Zakir Naik and like some Hindu people, but like Muslims seem to just kind of get away with using like bad science.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
obviously with me coming from an ex-Muslim background, it's and I'm more aware of the Muslim arguments against science. It was much more. It just seemed much more natural for me to come on those Muslim Dawa ones and counter their bad science claims first. Then all the others. But yeah, and also because it's just the Christian ones are very well covered. All the young Earth creationism, that kind of stuff is well covered by quite a few American science people. Yeah, whereas there's not that much that really counters some of the anti-science claims from the Muslim Dawa guys.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, like I also want to make like videos like criticizing them as well on a lot of things that they say. Um, yeah, I'm been quite busy with teaching recently, so I haven't really had the chance.
Yeah, I would say it does. It does take a bit of time because I think somebody said there was some rule where something like um, I I'd worked it out for 1 hour of their content would take 5 hours of my time to debunk and produce a 20-minute video, something like that. So
Hmm.
you'd
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
and also they're producing so much, it's impossible to respond to everyone. And with work and family, I might try and make a video once every 1 or 2 weeks.
hmm, yeah, um, yeah. Oh, I did want to talk about like morality, I guess,
Yes, please.
because
That's good.
obviously,
That's something I've done a
uh,
couple few videos on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously, like Muslim Lantern, that video that you showed Muslim Lantern with that atheist, and you were saying that he has no basis for morality because he doesn't believe in God.
Yeah,
Um, but I think so. Most theists seem to misunderstand the Euthyphro dilemma, where they'll say, "Oh, because there's two options: either God decides what is good, or things are good, and then God aligns with that." And they'll
exactly.
say, "Oh,
Yeah,
like God is good," but then that gives another question: like, is God good because good is whatever He does, or um, is God good because He aligns with a standard of good?
yes, yes, yeah. That's yeah. You put it, of course. Is a command good uh, because it's good in its own right, or is it only good because God says so? And then you've got um, is it? Then you're either stuck between divine command theory, where you have to take God as a dictator, or if it's good on its own, then you don't need God to give that command. So yeah, those two
Yeah,
points, and you can see how some of them fuffle round, and some of them get um, how they answer it. I mean, Hamza Mayat tends to go with divine command theory and says this is if God says it's good, then it's good, and that was the same thing from the Muslim Lantern. He did that, and then I remember that the guest that he had on brought on the issue of a child drowning and whether it should be saved or not, and is God wrong for not saving that child drowning? And I remember that video. Mm.
yeah. I
Did you have any
mean,
particular thoughts on that?
yeah. So like, if you say if you believe in divine command theory and you say something is wrong because God says it's wrong, then that's not really objective. Even like Muslim Lantern saying that's objective morality. Like it's not really because that's just subjective to what God says. So it
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
makes God the subject.
Yeah.
Like it's maybe because it might be I might think I determine good and bad, um, so then I be the subject. But if I say no, God decides it, then that's God is the subject.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, that's how I usually respond. I usually say, well, it's just God's opinion then, so it's just objective. But to steelman their arguments, they would always say that God has a mind that's not like ours, so it wouldn't be a subjective opinion. It would be objective, according to how they would respond to that. But I mean, objective just means independent of opinions and
yeah,
preferences and subjective preferences. So something that could be objective if you could look at it, see what kind of outcomes it causes. We have to agree on well-being as an outcome. So as long as you have some sort of reference point that you all agree on, then you can determine objective outcomes.
Yeah, I think also it's a big problem as a Muslim to say that divine command theory is true, because if something is good because God says it's good, then when you say the phrase "God is good," that's meaningless. That just means God is godly, because obviously whatever He says is going to be good. So
Yeah.
if God said, rape is good, then God would be good for allowing rape or anything. So that phrase "God is good," it just becomes meaningless.
Yeah, so that's the problem with the divine command theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I did a couple of videos on morality. I think they seem to be, they seem to have gone down better. I think than certainly been more popular than some of the heavy science ones. Those are the ones I went in to try and do. It was like the heavy science ones, and I remember because there's always quite a bit of research, a lot more research into those ones. But hopefully with time, because there are some videos that really bring people in. It was trying to counter most of the claims from Sabor that got me started. But those videos don't tend to get the massive audience. I found that Ali Dawa, Muhammad Hijab, and the Muslim Lanterns, those three, if I do a video on those, it gets over 1,000 views. Hamza Mayat is next, and then the others just lower down. So, I just want to grow the channel. I want as many people to watch it, and I want as many people to actually learn from it as possible.
Yeah. I mean, would you say you're trying to teach like science more than philosophy?
Yes, I'd say science more than philosophy. Yeah, but I'd want people to learn the philosophy of science and how science works, and that way they've got the tools there to counter whatever nonsense can come up in the future from the Dawa propagandists.
Yeah. That's quite good. Yeah, I used to, when I was a lot younger, I was like quite against evolution. But obviously, like most people who are against it, I didn't actually understand what it was, because they'll say, evolution says we came from monkeys, but that's just like not what it says. Like most arguments against evolution are just like straw men or evolution, because they've never actually studied it.
They don't understand it. A lot of people just don't understand it, and they get this a lot of misconceptions about it, and hopefully I'm making some progress into helping people understand it better. Yeah. I mean, would you? I mean, I don't want to ask you, too many personal questions. Did you discuss these science issues with colleagues or family?
I mean, yeah, like. So, what exactly do you mean by that?
Just asking, do you? Because obviously you've got the issue of the miraculous nature of Adam, how he was created, and that's in the Quran. So, do you discuss science and evolution with people?
I'm always. Yeah, I mean, whenever it comes up, like I'll always argue in favor of evolution. I mean, I'm like, I'm always arguing for the science. Even like a lot of like arguments for God and stuff. If I think there's like someone's talking about an argument for God and it's like bad, I'll just say like, that doesn't prove it, or like you can't prove God the same way that you could prove 1 + 1 is 2 or something. Because my brother he left Islam, so and I watch a lot of like atheist content as well, so I'm quite like familiar with. Oh, I'm very familiar with all the bad talking points that theists have.
I mean, do you ever?
It's
Sorry, I mean, I don't want to try and sound like I'm going to try to deconvert you or anything, but does it ever make you doubt whether you want to carry on in the religion or not?
the science stuff, or
Just the
just
general, because if you have the science, if you no longer believe in the miraculous creation of Adam, then that's
yeah? I
one
mean,
part. And then,
I don't.
as you
I
touched on the morality, whether you believe in the religion as a whole, or whether you want to give that up and become a humanist or something else. Do you ever have these thoughts at all?
I mean, I don't believe in any miracles. Um, so yeah, there's that. I haven't. Yeah. So I take that view. One of the scholars that I watch a lot and did in the past as well. His name is Mufti Abu Layth. I don't know
I've
if you've
heard of
heard of
him. Yeah,
him. Yeah.
yeah. He's got nice hair or something. Is he the chap? Quite nice hair. I wish I had hair
Yes.
like his.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. I've had a few conversations with him as well. So on like StreamYard. Um, yeah. But I like a lot of his points when it comes to Islam. Like I would agree with them.
Mm.
Um, yeah, one discussion I had with him was on the concept of ichtheism. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Ectheism.
Igtheism. Ichtheism.
No, I've not heard of that. Can you tell me about it, please?
Yeah, so it's a type of atheism where you don't believe in God because you don't believe the idea of God is coherent.
Mm.
Um, so, like you would say, the idea of a spaceless, timeless, disembodied mind doesn't make any sense. So you can't believe in something that you can't, that's not coherent. Like
Yeah.
if you say, if someone asks, "Oh, where is God?" And you say, "Oh, he's in no space and no time," then
Mm.
that's how is that different to saying he's nowhere and like never existed? Like it sounds like the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It does. Yeah. I can ask you. I
so
mean, are
yeah,
you? Based on what you told me, I mean, if you don't believe in the miracles, I mean, do you believe Muhammad flew to heaven on Barak at all or not?
no, that was I believe that was a vision.
A
So
vision.
that's yeah, yeah.
Do you believe
So
he's?
that's the
Do you believe he split the moon at all or not?
no.
Okay.
No. So the moon verse is it's referring to Judgment Day. If you look at the verse,
That's well.
there's
That's one
one.
of the interpretations. I think the other
Yes, that's
one
one of the interpretations. Yes.
was that it was at that time. It was a sign, and that's covered in one of my videos. I did a
Hmm.
response to um, the Sheikh. Oh, I can't remember names. The one, the guy,
Sheikh Uthman
Uthman.
ibn
Yeah,
Farouk. That
yes,
one.
that's the
Yes.
guy.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, he did a video on that,
Yeah.
and I did a response to that. So, can I just why are you still a Muslim if you don't believe in any of the miracles or the miraculous creation of Adam?
Well, I don't think you need to believe in supernatural miracles to be a Muslim. Um,
Well,
I mean, because the definition of Muslim is one who submits to God, I guess.
so
So yeah, I mean, yeah, like so Mufti Abu Laythi also doesn't believe in the miracles.
okay,
Um, but yeah,
it just
most people do believe in miracles. I don't. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it just seems. If you don't mind me asking, it just seems a bit strange. So, like, you imagine a Christian, a Christian kind of like has to believe that Jesus is the Son of God, um, in
sure,
a
yeah,
way, yeah.
sure,
And a Muslim has to believe that Muhammad received revelations from God via the angel Gabriel, and that he's the last messenger. And I just think if you don't, if you kind of like pick and choose, and just chuck out this, chuck out that, and then would you still be a Muslim at that point? That's what I'm
well,
thinking.
yeah. I don't think. I mean, a lot of people, like a lot of fundamentalists, might say that they might try and say that I'm not Muslim because of some beliefs that I hold. And there's a lot of that in the history, like saying, "Oh, this guy's a kafir. This guy's doesn't believe."
Yeah,
Like a lot of in group fighting.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
my because my background, my family, and everything was Shia, and
mhm.
my parents still alive. They're very religious. They're very religious Shia, but some of the hardcore Muslims would say that they're kufur
Yeah,
just for
right.
being Shia.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, yeah, I don't believe that I'm rejecting any like fundamental beliefs
Mm.
from the religion.
Okay.
Because with the miracle stuff, I think it's like up for interpretation and open to debate. Like whether it was supernatural or whether it happened naturally. The way that um, I don't like I don't believe in anything supernatural. Like I think everything that's happened, it's natural. Like it might be that we don't know how it happened, but it still naturally happened. Like we may not have an explanation for it, but science will have an explanation for it at some point. So before we discovered abiogenesis, then you could say the bringing about of life was, like miraculous because we don't know how it worked. But obviously now we know about
Yeah.
abiogenesis, so
Well,
it's a natural thing.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say. I tend to avoid miraculous because then you've got the
Yeah,
burden
no,
of
I
proof.
wouldn't say,
Yeah. So
but
I see what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah, but I'd say unexplained.
unexplained. Yeah, I
Unexplained.
mean,
Yeah.
because the way that I would use the word miracle is that something, maybe like something that's improbable but not impossible,
Mm.
like, oh, it's a miracle, I go into uni or something like that. But it wouldn't be supernatural. Like
Yeah.
that's how I
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
any
So you
miracles.
mean, it's like miraculous in like a casual sense. So
Yeah, 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 exactly.
miraculous.
Yeah,
I passed this exam or something. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
Mm,
Good.
yeah.
So, is there anything else? Do you have any ideas for any topics that you want me to cover?
Um,
Or shall I just carry on with the same type of videos?
yeah, I mean those types of videos are good. Have you done videos on like Zucker Nike?
No, no, but I think a lot of his stuff was very basic.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the ostrich egg and all of that. But a lot of his are quite old, and
Yes, yes, they are.
um,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not really wanting to concentrate on like some of the older stuff because then it just like lacks relevance. What's good? I like to copy the new stuff when people have just watched the original
Mm-hmm.
broadcast, and then my reactions just a few weeks later. That's what I'm trying to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw you had a video. I think it was critiquing Shoaib Malik. Um,
yeah, I did one. He was talking to
yeah.
Paul Williams of
Yes.
Blogging
Yes.
Theology. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I've actually I've talked to Shoaib because I have his WhatsApp, so I've talked to him in the past um, about evolution and stuff. I think his position his position was that I believe he was an Adam exceptionalist. Is
yeah.
that right? I
So I
think.
think something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I mean, he's actually,
Yeah.
he comes across as Shoaib. He comes across as a very nice, genuine guy.
Yes. Yes. He
I've
was. Yeah.
actually, I've taken excerpts of his videos and put them in mine to actually to
Mm-hmm.
help support the point that I'm making
Yeah.
because he's really honest, and I
Mm-hmm.
actually, I'd feel bad about doing something that's critical of him. If
Yeah. Yeah.
something
Yeah.
comes on, because
Yeah.
he doesn't appear to be a dishonest person like some of the others
Mm-hmm.
are.
Yeah. Like I remember I was having a debate about evolution in like probably like a family group chat or something.
Mm.
Then I got added to this other group chat, like an Islamic philosophy group chat or something, where it was just a bunch of Muslims.
Yeah.
So I was like debating all of them, and then Shoaib got added, and I think like I was talking to Shoaib about it because he was looking at the messages, and then we were agreeing on like the tactics that they were using to try and like dispute what I was saying.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, obviously, like all of them they seemed quite dishonest, and they didn't seem like they would budge or like I feel like there's no point in debating anything if you're just not gonna accept that you're wrong. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good philosophy, to have.
Mm.
I mean, I'm happily accept I'm wrong if the evidence is presented, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah.
especially if the argumentation is provided clearly. But that wasn't happening on the Dawa streams. Uh,
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. Um, do you know who Pine Creek is?
Yes. Yeah, Pine
Yeah.
Creek. Doug. Yeah, I've watched a few of his. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. 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 I had one conversation with him. Um, but when he went on to Hamza's Den as well, and yeah, I think they were being very dishonest with him because they called his argument like Pine Creek's argument from ickiness or something. And whenever it's a problem of evil thing, they'll always say, "Oh, you're just being emotional." but
Yeah,
it's more of an internal critique of the religion.
exactly. Yeah,
But they won't accept it,
like
and then they'll dodge a lot of questions, and they'll say, "Oh, but where do you get your basis for morality? Like
yeah.
you don't have any grounding for it." So yeah,
There's a that's part of their tactics. There was some of them because there was um, one guy called Afif who's an ex-Muslim. Uh, he called in, and his particular issue was treatment of slaves and women and all the right to sexually assault them and all of this. And he was trying to bring this up.
hmm
And Hamza was saying to him, "Why are you always talking about sex? Are you sex obsessed or something like that?"
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
trying to shame him when all he was doing, he's just he was bringing it up because it's in your holy book, and that's why he's asking. He's not, he's not obsessed in the mind or something about it, which is what
Mm-hmm.
that Hamza was trying to do to try and get out of that conversation.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, they
Yeah.
got some bad they do have some bad manners and bad tactics.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of ironic because obviously in Islam you're supposed to be honest and truthful, and you're supposed to deal with people in good faith, but then
Yeah.
they end up not doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's another thing I've noticed because when I do the discussions and you're trying to have that discussion and the panelists they behave in this manner. They don't answer questions, mute, talk over, and then just kick someone out. And then I look at
yeah.
the live chat of the time and the comments afterwards, and you can see the Muslims are typing because they want an honest discussion. They want to have this honest
hmm
discussion between
Yeah.
the Dawa people and the opponents because they want to learn from it. And some from the comments that I've read, it's like they're feeling they're cheated out
Yeah.
of that honest discussion by the behaviour of the Dawa propagandists, and that
Mm.
you know,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that,
I'd say I feel like that as well. I mean,
mm,
if they like don't know the answer to something, they should just admit that they don't know and just move on. Like that would be much better than um, trying to catch out their opponent and
yeah,
make them look dumb or whatever.
it's all about
Um,
it's just like a lot of showmanship with a lot of it. I mean, some of
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
There's one video I had where there's a guy called Vegan Gains. He called in and he
Yes.
tried to
Yes.
talk morality,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Hamza sent it over to Ishmael, who's one of the panelists, and
hmm
Ishmael was completely flustered. He was all over the place. He was just trying to insult Vegan Gains the whole time, and then they got kicked off. And and I did a lengthy reaction to that because I was so appalled at the way he behaved.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I saw one Vegan Games did with Sabur as well. I think
Yeah.
it was on Problem of Evil as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I covered that one as well, and that
yeah. Yeah.
his support
Yeah.
was quite bad on that one as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, so your view on morality, it's based on well-being, right?
yeah. I'd say with morality, you got to have a basis, because you don't. My basis would be just be well-being, and that's something that
Yeah.
you you might not know at the time what is the best, but you've got to think. And sometimes you get something wrong, but if it was done in with good intentions, then that's a good sign. And then if you learn from that and you know what does cause good outcomes and what causes bad outcomes, and you choose the better one, then you could say that that's moral. I mean, it is fluid because we learn new things all the time about what causes harm or what doesn't cause harm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's my
Um,
opinion.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's what it should be based on. I'm not. I think I think most other definitions of it, they don't really. It just doesn't wouldn't really fall under morality. Like if it was like with divine command theory, it's kind of like
Mm.
might makes right because well, God is the most powerful, so whatever He says goes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Which well, that's just not morality. So
no, it's not.
and with well-being and harm, you'd extend that to all sentient beings, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got
Mm-hmm.
to. I mean, you've got to bear in mind is the being able to judge because you could look at an adult male lion that kills a lion cub, because
Yeah.
it does that to restart the lioness's reproduction cycle. So you can look at
Mm.
that and see it's bad, but then
Mm-hmm.
that's instinct. Did the lion know it was doing wrong, or that kind of stuff? So you can't judge animals to the same, with the same standard as humans. In the same way that you can't judge a child to the extent of an adult, or a mentally disturbed person to with a non-mentally disturbed person.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. But in terms of well-being, like the animals would be included in the in trying to increase well-being. Right.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, yeah, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not a vegan. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I think it's quite important to me that for meat, that the animal is slaughtered humanely without undue suffering. And you could say that if you have compassionate farming, then that's actually better for the animal, because it's not out in the wild constantly having to look for food, constantly having to evade a predator. If it has a good life in the farm, and then is just humanely killed at the end, that's probably better for it.
Yeah, but the animals that we kill aren't. They're not in the wild. We're breeding them into existence. So if we didn't do that, then they wouldn't exist. Um,
Well, a lot of them would exist in the wild, but their life would be much harder in the wild than it would be on a farm.
I mean, yeah, they would exist on the wild, but like we're not like we don't eat wild animals. Like we eat like domesticated bred animals. So like the cows are, they're selectively bred for more meat or whatever. Or chickens, same thing. So most of the farm animals that we eat, they're
Yeah.
not. It's
So
not like you find a chicken from the wild and then give it a better life and then kill it humanely, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, of course they're offspring of other farmed animals mainly. Yeah, yeah. So they wouldn't have been
Right,
born if they weren't. So at least they got a chance for life. Yeah.
right,
Even
right.
if it
Um,
wasn't, even if they were brought into the world just to uh, be part of the food cycle.
okay.
Yeah.
So what would be the issue with doing that to a human? Breeding a human, giving it a good life, killing the human at 18 and eating the human.
That would be something that, because humans are sentient beings, and that's not something that you could extend onto humans, extrapolating it from animals. It'd be like a form of slavery as well. You'd need to take the humans' opinion into account. That's why you can't really farm humans, or or have humans in slavery.
Well, the animals are sentient too, right?
To a much lesser degree, yes. They're not able to really consent. So you have animals, you can have them as pets, but there are laws. You can't mistreat them. There are laws against animal cruelty that extends to your pets, to wild animals, to farms. So we accept that they can experience suffering, but you don't. They're not, say, fully sentient in terms of decision making.
Um, so how are you defining sentience?
Sure, I mean, I'm trying to find the exact word, but I look at it in terms of, say, a general scale of consciousness, from being aware of the surroundings to the ability to um, make conscious decisions and thinking processes. So there'll be
Okay,
a typical scale. Of course, you could have, say, bacteria at one end and humans on the other, and then a scale of animals moving up. A lot of apes and primates would be towards the higher end.
okay. So you're saying that since humans are more sentient, then it's not okay to breed and eat them?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's an icky factor with cannibalism, but I think also you'd more likely to get some sort of disease. I think, especially, I mean, if you eat the brain tissue, then you're going to get prions. Uh, I think it's just a general ickiness, and people aren't going to want to think that their relatives, in a way, are being eaten. So that's one issue. But I think really it's the case of, if you farm humans, then you're like treating others as subhuman, and that has, say, really bad connotations. And it's the same way that you have these, it's like among apes and chimpanzee, apes like chimpanzees, you don't want them to be badly treated because we can anthropomorphize them well. We can see them as close to us.
Sure, sure. So you're kind of putting humans at the center of everything and kind of branching
Well, I
out.
would say humans are certainly at the top. That's obviously speaking as a human. I mean, if you ask a frog would probably put a frog at the top. Uh, but I'd
Right,
say
right.
as a human, I would say that we have to. I think I would agree with medical testing on animals, if it would save human lives. That's one issue that I would agree with, because as long as it's done, relatively humanely, I think I don't have a problem with saying, putting humans at the top.
And so you're putting humans at the top based on their like consciousness and sentience.
Consciousness, sentience, yes. The fact that as a human we identify with other humans. I mean, why? I mean, are you vegan at all?
Oh yeah, I'm vegan. Yeah, I'm vegan. Yeah. Um,
I mean,
yeah. Uh, so obviously some humans they would have like a mental capacity that's like below a lot of animals. Um, so what would be the issue with killing them and eating them?
so humans with a lower capacity. So
So like they might be
yeah,
less sentient than certain animals, like some disabled humans. They'd have like less intelligence than
yeah,
like a dog or a pig.
yeah.
Uh,
I see what you mean, but there would be there would certainly be that concern. I think certainly the reaction in the public, to that happening, everyone would be find it completely abhorrent, but people would be against that as well, because people are going to think, well, hang on, if this is going to happen, what if it happens to them? Say they get a head injury or something, and they're
mhm.
turning out that, would they want to then be eaten off or put into dog food or something like that? And so that there is that ethical consideration, because you can look at it from utilitarian point of view and say, you can always try and imagine how you would feel, if you're in that situation, because you don't want that to happen to you or your relatives, um, to see them being eaten. I know there is. I mean, you can draw this because we have in the UK, like, dogs as pets, and
Yeah.
it's totally against the British culture to eat a dog. But in a lot of some countries, a dog is just like another animal, that could be eaten. If it's treated
Mhm.
as any other farm animal, then it's difficult to argue against that. Same way some people, say Hindus with their cows, whereas a lot of other places in the world eat beef without any problem.
Mhm. Um, yeah. So like you're saying, it'll be okay to eat dogs.
I wouldn't. I personally wouldn't, but I can understand why some people, if it was part of their culture to eat them, they would. And I don't see have that ickiness. It's just the fact that in the UK, dogs are particularly seen as pets, so that's why a lot of people have a problem. But I understand the cultural. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like some cultures are cannibalist as well. So, um, like, do you think culture? You think culture like defines morality, or
No, I'd still go by the well-being principle, but when you
right,
when you
right?
talk about cannibalism, then there's that. The other issue we discussed before about whether how would you feel if you think there's a chance that you could be cannibalized or somebody close
Yeah,
to you and things. But you can always draw this distinction. So you've got, I think, those the Andes plane crash where people cannibalized because otherwise they would starve, and then I think maybe in
hmm,
those cases cannibalism would be acceptable. You could,
okay,
depending on how severe, how extreme a situation you could find, um, you could find some justification of it. in in another extreme situation where it's like the least worst option.
Okay, yeah.
Mm.
Well, well, let's say there was a situation where there was no possibility of it happening to you. Like it was happening in some remote island where humans were grown in a lab. They were raised till 18, raised in good conditions, and then they were killed early and then distributed as food. Like, was that okay? Or,
No, no, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't find that okay personally. I just think because if they're they're humans, and even if they're given a good life, 18 is it's still quite young. That's they if they're humans are sentient, so for them to not be told, not being aware of all of this, and just grown like in a lab, that's that doesn't seem right.
um, so okay, I mean, well, 18. I use 18 because that's like kind of the
Yeah,
relative age of what animals are killed at. So, um,
but then again, I don't
yeah.
class those as fully sentient like humans.
Well, like, so it obviously said there's a scale for sentience.
Yeah,
So okay, so what if those humans were less sentient than us and had the same level of sentience as animals?
yeah. I think we discussed this already when we talked about the mentally ill. Um, it's still
Yeah. So
something that
so
you wouldn't want. It's still something that we'd have like a personal discuss because we could imagine ourselves in that situation, or imagine somebody close to us, or think that we could go into that situation if we, had, as you said, had a head injury or some other illness. So I'd certainly still be against that, and
no,
I
no, no,
think
no. But
nearly
we can't
everybody
because
would.
it's still the lab grown humans that are genetically engineered to be as sentient as like cows or something. So they have less sentience than humans, and
So
there's
when you
no
say that,
possibility of it happening
so they're lab grown,
to
so they're
any.
like so, as in they're like born in the lab or something? Are they grown
Yeah,
from a pet?
sure,
Are they
sure.
grown from a petri dish or something? Or
Uh,
something like
yeah, I mean, sure. Like they are like so. Obviously, you can imagine just a situation where, like, in theory, it's possible to create a human like in a lab, like in the future or something. But you could create a fully sentient human in a lab. Um, but let's say they're being created in the same level as like an animal. Then would it be okay to eat them?
no, because I don't think they would really class them as humans anyway. But I still wouldn't be against. I still sorry, I would be totally against that. I think there'll be all kinds of ethical problems with that. Certainly for me. Maybe if it's the only way to live, maybe if there's absolutely zero food and the choice was between that or total starvation, then you could make a case for it. But as long, if there are other alternative sources of food, then I think that sounds quite a perverse idea. And what would you think of that?
Uh, well, think of what?
The scenario you created.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I would say that's not okay. Because
Hmm.
I'm against like eating animals anyway. Um,
I mean,
so I'm trying to like,
what about milk? And I know you said you're vegan,
yeah,
so
yeah,
what's wrong
yeah. I
with
don't, I
milk
don't, I
and
don't.
what's wrong
What's
with
wrong with
milk?
it?
What's
Or
wrong with milk and honey?
well, what do you think happens in the milk? Do you know what happens in the dairy industry?
Yeah, I'm aware of how cows are how they're carved and how the milk is um, they're milked from them from the udders, and how honey is it's taken from beehives. So
Well, yeah. For cows, obviously, you have to take the semen from the bull
yeah,
and
yeah.
then fist the cow, which
Mm.
I don't think that would fall as humane.
Sure,
Um,
but
and
you eat
then
plants, don't you?
yeah, I eat plants here.
Doesn't the plant have to die?
Plants aren't sentient.
Okay. Well, we discussed the scale though, didn't we? So is
Well, so
plants more sentient than bacteria?
no, they're just not sentient.
Okay. Um,
Because I mean, do you think plants have a level of consciousness? Because as far as I know, they don't have a brain or a central nervous system, so they can't think, feel. You know, there's no like a plant. There's no subjective experience in the plant. It's the same as a rock. Like if you put a plant and a rock next to each other, there's no thing in there experiencing anything.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're conscious, but a plant can. So a plant can react to its surroundings in a way that a rock can't. It
Yeah,
has,
but that
it
that
has
that wouldn't
hormones.
mean
A plant is alive, and
yeah,
when
it's
you eat
alive,
it, you're
but
killing it.
life.
So yeah,
Yeah, but like there's no feeling there. There's no consciousness there. So
sure,
it's like
sure.
killing, like, you know, your cells are dying all the time, right? Your cells are, you're constantly losing cells.
Mm.
Cells are dying inside of you. There's nothing unethical about that. That's just, to even say that they're dying is, you know, it's like a weird word to use because they're not alive in the same way that like mammals are,
Mm. Exactly.
just animals in general.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. But
so like
those,
the way that I define sentience is the ability to just like to have desires. So to feel like you need to be able to feel pleasure and pain. So if you have those, then you're sentient. If you don't
mm,
have it, then you're not. So plants don't have it,
yeah. But
so they're not sentient.
you can survive without killing anything. You can live off um, you can live off eggs, milk, honey, and fruit, and none of that involves
Uh,
killing anything.
well, I mean, it does. So in like
How?
in the modern industry, the dairy cows are killed. So it's connected
But
to the beef industry. It's the same. So you're funding the
but
same
not
thing.
necessarily. I
Same
mean,
with
you could have a scenario where if you had your own farm where you never killed any animal, you let them live naturally. You could live off um, milk, eggs, and honey, and fruit from trees and other plants. So would you ever consider that if you didn't
if
have
I had
to?
my if I had my own farm.
Yeah. Or if I guaranteed you that there was a farm where no animal was killed, would you eat the milk, eggs, and honey off that?
So what kind of so like what kind of is it like the
Like a super organic
domesticated
farm,
cows?
super organic farm where there's nothing artificial apart from taking the milk, eggs, and honey.
So is it spare milk? Because
Yeah.
obviously the milk is for the calf. So if it's I mean if it's like leftover milk, I guess there's not much
Okay.
of a problem with it. The problem with the eggs, obviously the chickens today are bred to lay more eggs than usual. So
Mm.
it's because an egg is like a period for the chicken.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So because of that, they suffer because of that. So like I don't want to fund that.
Okay.
If it's like a natural chicken, they laid an egg, like if they just left it behind or something, then it'll be fine to eat it. But when I guess when they lay the egg, they're expecting a chick to come out of it, so that's still their egg. Like it's not my egg, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. It depends. I mean, there various breeds are they vary in their broodiness. So there are some chickens that lay eggs and they discard them.
Yeah,
Um,
then
yeah.
it wouldn't be really be a problem to eat those eggs, in theory.
Sure.
But obviously, like today, the egg industry it's responsible for a lot of cruelty. So since the male chicks are useless, they get put through a blender. In general, it's just exploiting the hens.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for humane treatment of chickens, then the eggs that we get the chickens that we get eggs from are just not treated humanely. You need to look elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
Um,
yeah. There are organic farms. We can agree on that. So, or on the degree that we would go for.
mm, yeah, I mean, I like it's not the problem for me isn't killing. It's only obviously you said well-being, right?
Mm.
But plants don't have. There's no um, well-being for plants doesn't really make any sense because
Yeah.
they
They're
have no
not. They're not
desires.
conscious. Yeah. They're
Right,
alive, but
right.
They're not conscious.
Yeah, like they're alive in the same way that my cells are alive, but like there's no rights, there's no cell rights movement. You know what I mean? Like my cells have no desires. Like if I lose a cell, I don't feel it.
Mm.
But obviously there is animal rights, and you say you think animals have certain rights to
Yeah.
not be
I'd say
treated
certain rights. Yeah.
cruel.
They should be
Yeah.
free from cruelty.
Mm. Um, yeah, I guess the only thing I'd ask is how is it uh, not cruel to kill them?
If it's done humanely,
But
is
how
that
like is it like could I humanely kill you, for example?
I would suppose if you wanted to, you could. In some setting, if somebody could be anaesthetized and then killed, that would be a humane way of killing somebody. I mean, it would still be killing,
Okay,
but
Right.
there are humane ways to do it.
But then would that be cruel?
I mean, it's cruel towards humans, really, because then you're talking about execution um,
Hmm.
and then the cannibalism. But on a farm, I would say it's, especially with lesser sentient creatures, I'd say it's a different matter.
So it's cruel to kill humans if
Simply
you.
because we've got that extra, we have that higher status. That's what I think. We have that higher status where, fully sentient. We can empathise with other humans.
Right. I mean, animals can. They've shown like emotion and empathy as well.
Yeah, yeah, but on a
Um,
lesser scale.
yeah, but some humans show that on a lesser scale. So
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we kind of discussed that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Um,
and was there anything else you want to discuss before we chatting for an hour?
yeah. That's. I mean, let me see. What is your what do you think is the least bad argument for God?
If there was anything that would convince me more, it would probably be the first cause. There's something about something existing outside of time and space, and that's always existed. That sets things into motion. There's that concept that would make me more, most likely to believe in a god. At the moment, I've heard the first cause argument, contingency argument, a lot of these. I'd say they talk about you have something like a prime mover, and all these arguments they go back to a first cause prime mover. Then you don't know what any of that. You don't get any further from explaining what that is. So you said, oh, you got a first cause, but then what is that, and how does that lead to your god? Then you still got a mountain to go. But that's probably the best one, a first cause one.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'd say like people who use that argument, they would just call the cause God. Like that's what they would call the cause. Like
Yeah, but then you could say
even,
it's a celestial unicorn or something like that. So
well, yeah, I guess you could say you can't know anything about
yeah,
the thing,
so
whether
you
it's even conscious or
yeah
not.
you got a first cause, but
Um,
that's all you've got. You don't have anything more.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, with the first cause, I think it hinges on like infinite regress not being possible, which I don't think is right. I don't think there's a logical problem with infinite regress
Yeah,
being a thing.
because it all
Something
depends on
could.
yeah exactly because you got depends on time.
Right.
Time stops and time resets at say the Big Bang, or that's some of the theories which you probably know better than I do, being a physics teacher.
Yeah. I mean, like most people don't have a problem saying that time could go on forever.
Yeah,
But then if you just extend that backwards and say, like it is, time had no beginning, maybe, then suddenly they say it's a problem. But it's kind of the same thing. It's just being mirrored in the opposite direction.
yeah,
Um, I think it also, obviously, the concept of something being outside of time is kind of like a little bit incoherent. Like, what does it mean to be outside of time? Like, because if you say, "Oh, it was before time existed," before is a phrase that connotates to time.
mm.
So we can't have a before time. That's like a contradiction in and of itself. And it's kind of like saying outside of space, because outside it's referring to space. So
Yeah,
you can't be outside of
yeah,
space.
yeah. And we
Um,
don't know what's outside the universe. With a postulating a
right.
multiverse or something else. So yeah, so we're back to just a first cause, and we don't know any more about it.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing
Sure.
with cause, obviously, we know that everything in the universe has a cause, but that doesn't mean that the universe itself has to have a cause. Like I think it's committing a compositional fallacy. So
Yeah, yeah. That's one
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Good.
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm kind of like working on a book where I critique the arguments, the classical arguments for the existence of God.
Mm.
It's not necessarily for like theists or atheists. I think it's kind of for both. I think
Yeah, that'd be
because
interesting. I'd look
theists
forward to
just
that.
yeah, because I think most of them are committing a fallacy of composition. So they're all trying to compare it to something like inside the universe, saying, "Oh, we know all of these things inside the universe have a cause, so that means the entirety of reality must have a cause."
Yeah.
Or
Is that you can't
we know
extrapolate
these
backwards, can you, from that?
exactly, because it's like saying we know cells replicate and divide, and humans are made of cells, so humans replicate and divide. That's not true. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I guess
Right.
the argument that I think is the strongest. So I think the universe is a simulation. So there's this physicist called James Gates. I'm not sure if you've heard of him,
No, I
but
haven't.
that's
No.
his like his he's not religious or anything, but he works in the field of like computational physics, and so what he found is that um, within the universe he found
Mm.
codes that match up to the systems that we have in our computers.
Okay.
So that would imply that the universe is similar to like a computer system that we have, and then if that analogy works, then that would mean that it would need some kind of programmer
Mm.
to program those codes into the universe.
Oh,
But
that
obviously,
sounds
that doesn't.
sounds a bit like Hamza's information argument in
Yes,
a way.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But I think the difference is that there's the analogy with something that's inside the universe. So
Yeah.
if you're finding the exact codes that we find in the computer,
Mm.
you could say it's a coincidence, or you could say it was programmed. But then you can't say whether it was one programmer or a group of
Sure.
programmers or
Sure.
um,
Good.
yeah.
Okay.
So I
Well,
guess yeah. So I guess it like then there's Neil deGrasse Tyson who says that the universe is probably a simulation, and then there's probably just like an infinite chain of simulations going on. So we were programmed by someone, and then they were programmed, and then we're going to program sentient beings,
that
and yeah.
sounds intriguing. I think maybe
Mm.
yeah. So the cosmological stuff can be a bit out of my league, but so I think what we'll do is maybe we could if if you get your book out, I'll have a look. Maybe we could schedule another chat after I've read it.
Yeah, yeah,
That would be
yeah,
really good.
yeah,
But yeah, so I
yeah,
need to
right,
get
yeah,
going. But yeah, that was
yeah,
good.
yeah. So yeah, right.
Thank you for coming. We've had a really good chat.
Yeah. So I hope not all Muslims are like the ones that you uh, interact with or
No,
debunk.
we had a very good,
Yeah,
pleasant conversation. It was
yeah,
good to meet
yeah.
you. Okay,
Okay, yeah, you
good.
too.
You
All right.
take care then.
Okay.
Bye
See
bye.
ya. Bye,
Bye.
Aslam.